Nutrition. So this is one of those topics where as soon as you think you know something, you find out later you're wrong. Things are changing very, very fast in this profession or in this area. Some of the things we knew 20 years ago that we knew to be absolute science have changed. So one thing that I can tell you is I'm going to reserve the right to say that everything I tell you today may actually be wrong. Okay? So 10 years from now, if I come back here and I talk to you and go, yeah, that was not accurate because we found out more now. That's why it's so important to stay up with the science and see kind of what's going on. One of the other challenges with nutrition is there's a lot of information out there and there's a lot of misinformation. So about the time that you hear something is great, then somebody else will tell you why it's terrible. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk in like broad sweeping concepts and generalities in a lot of ways. All right, so we're going to just kind of give a basic foundation, kind of talk more in concepts because nutrition is a very individual thing. Different people are going to respond to different strategies, different things are going to work better for other people, again, based off your bodies and basically how you feel with the different type of nutritional regimens that you participate in. So other thing, in full disclosure, so with my training and with my background, I am not a dietitian. Okay, so from a scope of practice standpoint, I can't sit here and tell you, specific dietary plans, essentially. So I can't tell you, hey, you need to have X number of grams of protein or fat or whatever per day. But what we are going to do is we're going to look at in general concepts and show you some different ranges and help you guys kind of get a general idea of what you need to do in order to make sure that you're fueling your body for performance and what you need to do. All right, sound good? Yes, all right, cool. The other thing, feel free to ask questions. All right, so this isn't one of those things where I'm just going to plow through this thing. Again, I'm here for you guys. I want to make sure that you're getting your questions addressed. If I go too fast on anything or if I skip over something and you say, hey, I'd like you to talk a little bit more about that, let me know. All right? All right, cool. So as far as looking at nutritional needs, so guys, some of the big things is, talking about this in the context of the academy, but also just as firefighters in general. Some of the things that we're really trying to make sure that we're accommodating here is making sure that you've got enough food to fuel your body for what you have to do here during training, all right? Again, that's also going to carry out throughout your career is making sure that you're fueling your body in a way that's going to be optimal for performance. One of the things that you'll see with this time block in your career, you got about, roughly 16 weeks. At least half of that is going to be involved in some pretty intense training. All right, so during that time frame, your caloric needs might go up in order to basically accommodate for the energy output that you're expending. All right, so we want to make sure that you guys are fueling your body efficiently and effectively. One of the things I would really recommend doing is kind of trying to track what you're doing in some way, shape, or form. Now, I know a lot of people don't like to track things just because, it's one more hassle, but there's kind of an old saying, if you're not assessing, you're guessing. So you can come and tell me, hey, I'm having some issues. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. First thing I'm going to ask you is, where are you? Right? If you want to go somewhere, so you got your phone and you're trying to go somewhere, you're going to program it into your GPS. What does that GPS have to know? It's got to know two things, right? It's got to know where you are and where you want to go. Once it knows that, it's going to help plan the best possible path to get there. But if we don't know where you're at, it makes it hard to figure out what that pathway is going to look like, all right? And occasionally there's roads, constructions, and diversions, and blocks, and things like that, and we got to work around that, okay? But if you've got a general trajectory, we know where you're at and where you're going, we can probably help get you there, okay? The things, other things you need to think about is so work bouts are going to range in intensity between very light to near maximal activity. So last year it was pretty cool. During some trainings, we actually got to throw heart rate monitors on people. Trainees as well as frontline folks. And what we saw is, for the most part, heart rates were, moderate intensity, so usually anywhere from 60 to 75% during most of the work that was being done. However, during some of those bouts of activity, we saw some that were pushing maximal. And actually we had several that were over maximal, all right, or what their estimated max would be. So looking at that, majority of the work is going to be aerobic in nature. However, there's going to be times where you're going to have to push thresholds to where, you're going to have to move something potentially heavy and it's going to push that anaerobic threshold. And again, it's going to be a pretty intense bout. Now, hopefully, it's a short bout, so you don't have to endure that for a long duration of time, but we know that over the course of your career, at some point, that's going to happen, all right? So, again, we want to make sure that you got fuel to optimally support that. The other thing is sustaining fitness maintenance as well as lean mass. One of the other things we've seen in a lot of the research we've done is body composition does affect performance. I know that's probably like earth-shattering to you, but your fat mass and your lean mass will impact how you're able to perform on certain activities. In general terms, the things that we've seen is on occupational tasks, there is usually a negative relationship between fat mass and performance in more like aerobic and endurance-based activities. In strength and power activities, sometimes a higher level of fat mass has been associated with better performance. Now, probably that's because larger individuals can move heavier things, okay? So that's not necessarily a benefit that we're trying to get you more and more body fat, all right? But looking at that, by and large, like when you look at fat mass compared to lean mass always correlates or relates better to performance than fat mass does. So basically what that's saying to me is instead of trying to get people to focus on progressively lowering body fat percentages, is really trying to switch that focus a little bit and try and increase your lean mass percentage. All right, to where it's in a healthy range. So again, a certain amount of body fat is going to be necessary just to maintain function in life and to be healthy, but anything in excess of that creates extra physiological burden on your body that you have to move in a fire. And have you guys had the gear on yet? Yeah, so again, that creates a whole nother level of stress that you're having to accommodate for. Again, we weighed people last year. We saw that the amount of weight or load that they had to carry ranged anywhere from 25% to about half their body mass. Okay, so basically that's weight that, it kind of acts like body fat. It's basically inert. So it doesn't contribute to force production like lean muscle tissue does, so that's just more burden that you have to carry on your body. If you compound that with a lot of excess fat mass, that makes that process even more difficult. All right, so the thing that we do know is people that have higher BMI and body fat percentages are more prone to different types of injuries, especially at the joints, because it causes a lot of stress on those. You're already going to have a lot of excess load on you. So again, if you have a lot of excess fat, that's just going to potentially facilitate an injury. All right. Now, again, I'm talking like fat's a bad thing. Fat's actually really good, and we have to have a certain amount to make sure you're healthy. But anything above and beyond that starts to create some potential issues. All right. Does that make sense? Sure. All right, good. I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea on that. So this is a chart that you probably can't see. So, oh, whoops. There we go. So looking at that, what this is basically discussing, this was a paper that came out from some friends of mine that did research on firefighting specifically. This talks about some of the different health-related issues that firefighters face. All right, so as you can see, there's a lot of different things up here from a health concern standpoint, but some of the big ones, obesity, hypertension, diabetes, and inflammation. Okay, so those are all things that firefighters have to worry about over the course of their career. A lot of that is due to cumulative stress. A lot of that's to poor lifestyle choices, potentially. Those things can be ameliorated to some extent, all right? So we can do some types of wellness type programming to help reduce stress levels, but also with what you're putting in your body, that can have an impact on just not only your physical well-being, but your overall health and wellness, all right? So we want to make sure that we're being attentive to that and paying attention. And I think if nothing else today, probably one of the big things I want you guys to think about is just being more aware of what you're doing and what you're eating. That's one of those things where it's real easy to kind of fall in the habit of just grab and go. And I would say 90% of all statistics are made up on the spot. But 99% of all people out there are probably not thinking about what they're going to eat during the day. Okay, it's just one of those things like they eat based off convenience and they eat based off of what's in front of them. All right, for you guys, it's got to be a little bit more dialed in than that if you want to perform at a high level. Okay, and again, looking at it from a downstream effect as far as health-related issues long term, once you guys get done with your career, I want you to enjoy a nice retirement as well. So if you've taken care of yourself during this duration, you're going to have a better opportunity to have a good retirement and enjoy life after this as well. All right, so looking at nutritional needs for trainees, so one of the things we talked about before is that without adequate intake, prolonged tasks may cause reductions in performance. So, basically we know if we don't have enough fuel for our body, then that's going to impact what we're able to do from a physical performance and physical capacity standpoint. So some of the things that we're looking at as far as nutritional intake, especially during this time, is it's got to fuel performance. All right, so it has to fuel the training that you're about to engage in and make sure that you have an adequate nutritional reserve in order to perform the activities that you're being asked to do. The other thing is we want to support lean mass, either accrual or maintenance. So what's going to happen is during this time frame, again, based off where everybody's at, Some people are actually going to gain lean muscle mass. Some may actually lose it because the caloric expenditure is greater than what the caloric input is. So we want to try and balance that out as best we can. You know, like we said before, your lean muscle mass, that's the engine, basically. So that's what's going to contribute to force production capabilities. If you have a smaller engine, then that's going to reduce your performance levels. So basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to maintain your engine throughout this time frame or tune it up and enhance it, okay? The other thing we need to look at is recovery, okay, and especially rapid recovery. You know, during your career, you're going to have a lot of intense bouts of activity that you're going to have to do. If you look at the overall amount of training that you're doing this 16-week time block, it's going to be pretty intense. So there's probably not going to be a whole lot of times where you're going to be working, you know, 8, 9, 10 hours per day for, you know, weeks on end. Okay, now it's not that that's not going to happen at times where you're going to have, you know, really hard and long work days that are going to be, you know, several days in a row. But if you look at it over the 16-week period, you're going to get hit with a lot of stress and a lot of physical activity during this time frame. All right, so we got to make sure that, you know, what the nutrients that you're taking in not only help maintain performance, but also help you recover relatively quick, okay? That's one of the things that we're asking you guys to do also is in your training journals that we're giving you, or the training logs, on the back side of it, we've got that RPE sheet. So it's basically gonna have you assess how hard the exercise session was for the day, but at the beginning of it, it's gonna ask you how recovered were you? So how fatigued do you feel today before we actually start the session? We'll look at that, and that's going to help us kind of periodize your program and adjust that based off of what the overall needs of the group look like, all right? The other thing it helps us with is if it looks like somebody is going off the rails and it looks like we might be, you know, getting close to somebody getting injured, it helps us flag that a little bit earlier and have a conversation about some strategies we can take, okay? The other thing we need to look at is going to help account for potential imbalances as far as a good nutrition plan. So, you know, one of the big things, you know, as we said before, there's a lot of confusion with nutrition, but one major thing that we want to make sure we're doing is trying to eat a wide variety of foods so you're getting nutrients from different sources and different types of nutrients. So anytime you engage in a diet that's very unifocal or pretty much eats the same foods all the time, you might be missing nutrients somewhere in your diet, all right? So one of the things we want to do is try and plan for that and making sure that you're eating a diet that's not only healthy but has a wide variety of different types of foods in it so you're getting that good nutrient balance as well.